audible at the back there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to this press briefing on the state of the milling industry ahead of the 2021 festive season, detailing our preparedness to adequately supply the market this festive season. The Grain Miller Association of Zimbabwe is an apex body of 114 millers nationwide who are in the business of milling maize and wheat, pre-packing of salt, sugar bean, rice, popcorn, and manufacture of stock feeds. Our products form part of each and every shopping basket for every household in Zimbabwe. Our membership is an aggregate annual turnover of 800 million a year. 800 million US dollars a year. From 2016 to 2019, national grain supply was characterized by severe droughts, and we had to import maize and wheat from as far as Mexico, Brazil, Russia, Canada, and South Africa. At that particular time, we had no other viable alternatives other than importing GMO positive grain. In 2017 and 2018, GMAZ partnered with the government in promoting and funding local farming of maize and wheat. The yield results were the highest since 1980. Our aggregate investment to date in this regard exceeds 750 million US dollars. This development is clear testimony that when the country is confronted with hunger, private sector and government must cooperate in joint efforts. GMAZ fully supports the current strenuous efforts being exerted by government to enhance production of wheat and maize under various initiatives such as Vumvudza, Intwasa Program, Command Agriculture, and Commercial Contract Farming Program. I'll come to maize. This year, we are delighted that our GMB and private silos have in stock in excess of 1 million tons of white maize, which is adequate supply to supply the commercial market beyond July 2022. As a result of bumper harvest, current prices of maize meal in US dollar terms are actually deflating, and the competition among millers is cutthroat. Consumers are benefiting from the wide choices of brands on the shelves nationwide. I'll come to wheat. Yet the country not embarked on this noble and successful local wheat farming production will be gravely susceptible to changing global wheat prices. At the moment, global wheat prices are on the surge due to reduction of the wheat export supply by 16.5 million tons. Conversely, imported wheat landed in Zimbabwe is currently at 530 US dollars. This is a substantial potential to increase both bread flour price and loaf of bread significantly. Without local wheat production, and had we been subjected to more imports of wheat, bread by now would have been selling upwards of $1.25 US dollars per loaf. Egypt, the world's biggest wheat importer, has increased the subsidized bread prices, which have been fixed for 25 years. France is faced a likely price of pasta due to increase in cost of wheat. Turkey and Italy, the EU top wheat importers, are facing decline in wheat supply. We are delighted and encouraged with the 2021 winter wheat harvest that has now exceeded 220,000 metric tons to deliver to GMB and still continuing. Deliveries are still continuing. This year, wheat production will be the biggest wheat import substitution program since the commencement of wheat production in this country in the 1960s. Bread flour supply is above adequate, and our colleagues in the bakery industry are doing commendable work as the market is well supplied. I'll touch on rice. The country remains a net importer of rice. However, due to generational dietary changes, the youth dividend is now moving towards rice rather than the traditional maize meal. This change in consumer consumption has seen the national rice consumption increase from 18,000 metric tons per year in 2005 to 150,000 tons in 2020. The introduction of rice cookers on the local market has contributed tremendously to the increase on rice demand. However, we are appealing for the scrapping of VAT backdated. My colleague, the president of CZR, will ventilate on the matter further. The market is currently adequately supplied. On the pre-packs of sugar and beans and salt, there has been equally substantial increase in sugar bean production this year. This will be complemented by imports later. Sugar bean has become a cheaper alternative to meat for protein nourishment. Salt is an imported commodity and we have it in abundant supply for both industrial and home consumption. Our message to consumers now is we are pleased to inform our consuming publics that there will be more than enough supplies of maize meal, bread flour, self-raising flour, rice, salt, sugar beans, and stoffies. We are urging consumers to buy as much they want, but avoid panic buying. We want to appreciate the Ministry of Agriculture for their excellent and collaborative work with private sector in turning around the agricultural fortunes of the country and regaining the national food self-sufficiency. We thank the Ministry of Finance for their wise leadership in structuring and providing all requisite support towards the revamping of local production. We remain indebted to the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe for the continued foreign currency payment support for our critical imports. We salute Bank ABC for their financing efforts of up to 800 million Zim dollars to date for wheat. We wish all our stakeholders, more importantly our consumers, a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2022. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am quite happy and honored to be speaking in front of you on the matters that are very critical to our economy, issues to do with preparations for the festive season. I would like to applaud our suppliers, manufacturers, Grain Millers Association, Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries, Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce, Consumer Council of Zimbabwe, and other stakeholders like Buy Zimbabwe, because we are working closely to ensure that for a very first time we actually give our consumers a decent Christmas festive. This is very prudent and essential, especially in an environment currently where government has done a lot of work towards improving the incomes of civil servants through the issuance of bonuses. And of course, a lot of people have come through and asked what our response to the issuance of bonuses to the civil servants is. And this is, of course, in respect to the previous behavioral traits that have shown that largely businesses tend to increase prices as soon as government increase civil servants' salaries or is issued the 13th check. So we would like to commit and obligate ourselves, and of course respecting our consumers, to commit that we will not increase prices as the Christmas period comes through. We are working very closely with our suppliers to ensure that the glitches that we have experienced in the past, where, for example, the issues to do with product procurement, the issues to do with conditions around procurement of such products, for example, where some manufacturers and suppliers have come through and of course given a condition that if you are buying 2 trucks of a particular product, one is going to be paid in USD and the other in ZW. So what it does is that it constrains a player, especially former players, where currently above 95% of the daily transactions are constituted by ZW, rather Zimbabwe dollars, and of course only an average of between 2 and 3% is hard currency. This of course has been necessitated by the exchange rate issues around pricing, where formal retailers in the majority have adopted the formal exchange rate, and in doing so it has not become attractive to the general public, especially that are holding hard currency, to shop or rather to transact in US dollar, in US dollars or other hard currencies. So we have seen very little traction or in terms of sales in hard currency for formal stores, and where a manufacturer or a producer or a supplier then demands payment in foreign currency, or if they don't demand so, we have seen a lot of huge Zim dollar cost build-ups in order for example, to become very unattractive for you to pay in ZW. So we are doing a lot of work currently, working with suppliers of key basic commodities like sugar, rice, mealie meal, salt, cooking oil, and of course other basics like meat products, poultry products. We are quite aware that there are some challenges along the value chain, but what we appeal to our manufacturers and suppliers is to ensure that supply is not interrupted, and also pricing remains stable. I will give an example of certain pricing that we have noted on the market. In 2014, I think the 30-ton truck of sugar was going for 14,000. We would procure it at 14,000 US dollars. But as I speak today, I think it is going at an average of 31,000 US dollars. So what sugar does, for example, is that it directly and indirectly affects the whole value chain, because if you look at the pricing of cordials and other products that require or that uses sugar as a raw material, it then certainly means that those products prices may shift. So the issue that we are continuing to work with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, Ministry of Industry and Commerce, are issues to do with reducing the gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel market exchange rate. This is very key towards price stabilization, because where we reduce the gap, it would ensure that the unfair competition that is currently obtaining on the market, where informal trade has benefited largely from the skewed exchange rate on the parallel market, because if they procure stocks, they are easily able to sell the same stocks exclusively in US dollars or other hard currencies, whereas it is not possible for a formal trader. So these are the issues that we are currently, of course, dealing with and talking about with regulatory authorities. And of course, there is also an appeal that as we build up towards the festive season, we need to ensure that suppliers and manufacturers have got sufficient foreign currency through the auction system, that they should deploy in sufficient procurement of raw materials so that supply is not interrupted. The pricing escalations and pricing instability is a function of supply. Where supply is not interrupted and the market has got sufficient product, we have seen that in the majority the prices stabilize. We also wish going forward to work with government and reduce monopolies. We need to have multiplicity of suppliers of various key basic commodities to ensure that there's competition amongst suppliers, just like we have got a lot of competition in the retail and wholesale sector between formal and of course amongst the formal retail. And we need also to ensure that there is sufficient support that is given to the retail and wholesale sector through, of course, the auction system. And of course, for those that may procure foreign currency and misappropriate it, misdeploy it, then definitely we're also working with authorities to ensure that we actually get some action on that, because this foreign currency is a public good. It is scarce. It is of course highly on demand, and abusing the foreign currency definitely defeats the whole purpose, because the fundamental reason why the auction system was introduced is to support productivity and production. So in the event that the productive sector acquires or procures the foreign currency and misdeploy it, it causes the supply challenges, some of which we are talking about today. And of course, the other issues that we can actually guarantee our consumers out there is that the supply of key basics is guaranteed. There is no need to panic. Panic buying causes unnecessary supply constraints. We've got sufficient product. Otherwise, if you walk around the country, more than 70% of the basic commodities that you'll find in shops is locally manufactured. So that is a very key development that we need to improve on, and even work on the competitive environment under which those basic commodities are produced. And of course, in addition to that, we need to ensure that we reduce the content or component of the imported in raw materials, because ultimately we have seen a large portion of the money that is taken from the auction system is actually deployed towards procurement of raw materials. So we want to domesticate sourcing of raw materials and ensure that those are easily available and at affordable prices. That we have discussed quite extensively, and we continue to appeal to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development and Government to at least give us an ear on ensuring that the issue around the payment of VAT in retrospect is actually scrapped. We are happy that government responded after our direct lobbying and came up with Statutory Instrument 125 of 2021. So the effect of Statutory Instrument 125 of 2021 is to remove VAT on rice, with the effect from 1st of May 2021 going forward. But the issue under discussion, which is the bone of contention by business, is the period covering February 2017 to April 30, 2021, where ZIMRA is, of course, continued to demand payment of the VAT from business. But unfortunately, the business, in the majority in the rice supply chain, did not collect the VAT. So it is our hope and, of course, appeal that we have, of course, carried to the authorities, that the issue of continued demand of VAT payment on rice in retrospect is also scrapped. We are quite aware of many challenges, but of course the purpose of this particular press conference is to assure the consumers and the public, as we head towards the festive season, that supply is guaranteed. And of course we are working around ensuring that price escalations will not happen. And of course, where unjustified price increases happen, we will certainly be engaging with the suppliers, just like we are doing right now. And of course, work on conditional selling by some of the manufacturers and suppliers. We need a smooth festive season and smooth procurement of those key basics. And of course, going forward in 2022, of course, it will be an election year, but as business, our commitment is to ensure that we work with government and ensure that the consumers continue to benefit from our efforts directly or indirectly through sufficient and stable service provision through key basics. And of course, we need to continue to support the Zim dollar through our efforts directly or indirectly. Unfortunately, we have seen in the recent weeks the value of the Zim dollar has been of course tumbling, but I think this is sweet news to my brother from GMAS, because suppliers and manufacturers want a weaker currency for them to be able to be competitive and also using our own local currency. But I think we are happy at the present moment with the relationship that we have with our manufacturers and suppliers. Ladies and gentlemen, we wish you a very prosperous Christmas festive period, and of course a prosperous 2022. Thank you very much.